Okay, so I was going to do a video on drawing Zenyatta and Genji, and the problem in that is that I really suck at drawing robots. So I feel like I'm not gonna give you guys the best of tutorials, but I can give you some tips on how to break down the forms so that you can like just laying out the drawing and then building up a drawing. Okay, let's just do it like that. I'm not going to get into rendering. I'm not going to get into I can't get into certain aspects of robotics because I suck at drawing robots. So one of the things whenever you're drawing whatever character you're drawing, always start with a basic sketch. Okay, that's the like just a basic layout of the anatomy or of the like just the forms. Okay, so you just want to do some basic shapes here and basically build up the forms. Luckily with both Genji and Zenyatta, they have humanoid-like forms, so you don't really have to really overly think the forms, and you just have to kind of place them. The only thing is with Zenyatta, some of his proportions aren't going to necessarily be human. He's a very tiny area for what is his like rib cage essentially. So that's the only thing you really have to, there we go, that's a much better picture, watch with him. And this portion is very long and his shoulders are very low. And it's just looking at the proportions of the thing you're trying to draw and then just doing a basic sketch to kind of get them in place. And a lot of people simplify it because there's a lot going on in these with these characters. They have so many details and stuff. So it's just like simplify it as much as you can. Like just basic shapes. Basic shapes are your best friend whenever you're drawing to figure out anything in drawing. Just really break down the basic shapes. And then erase some of this shit. Okay. So yeah, when you start to detail and outline your forms, you really want to look at reference and make sure that you're getting certain details correct. I know with me, because I never draw these two, I have to do a lot of research. The other thing with Zen is he's got a logic to him. That's the other thing with robots that's really easy, is that when you are just kind of measuring, because they won't have like your anatomical measuring points, but they will have their own set of points and their own logic. So like the spacing between like the top half of his head metallics from the bottom half, that space right here, that'll be where his little semi-eye slits sit. And then you can just run the block, because up from those will be his 9 dots. I think that's actually his ocular point, but whatever. I don't know. I don't play Zenyatta. I don't study Zenyatta. Let's put it as study. I don't play a lot of video games ever. Anyway, so okay. So his chin is really off. That's okay. You got like a Bruce Campbell chin going on here. The shit. Okay, so but when you're building, like you just want to make sure that you're building with like your basic shapes and trying to make sure that you're observing the points of like where everything is going. So that's a gap in here that I missed. Like just make sure that you're trying to push and pull it and make it look like the reference that you're using a bit. You don't have to go completely like reference, but just trying to get the angles of the shapes wrong, like right. Angles of the shapes wrong. and just working the forms. So with Zen, awesome thing about him is that everything is going to be symmetrical. So what's on one side will be on the other side. He's not asymmetrical. So I think Genji's pretty much like that too. Might have one minor asymmetrical detail. Anyways, but with Zenyatta also, a lot of his stuff is cylinders. And it's just cylinders and cylinders. So you just gotta like run your cylinders, make sure that you're getting the steps right and the lines properly, like where all of his like little lines and minor details are. But you can just start building with these basic shapes, and that's one of the cool things about robots is they are literally just geometric shapes. It's just getting the proportions right. So always kind of give yourself a little baseline or some like just base instructions, how I'm kind of just lightly throwing down shapes here, and then start tightening them up and adjust them accordingly if you need to. That's really all the advice I can give you on drawing robots. I'm really bad at drawing robots, so I kind of just like, I don't know. But yeah, if you can figure out what the basic shapes are and you can just lay down like where the basic forms are going and what they're doing, you should be able to communicate clearly enough that it's a robot. And you can, like, once you start drawing it a lot more, and this is my problem, is because I haven't drawn these guys a lot, I don't have a shorthand to it. So eventually you will build a shorthand. Here, I'll just do one of his little orbs. And everything will have a logic, so it'll all be connected, especially with robots. Like, there's always a design element that connects to each other design element, so as long as you're keeping track of what those are, you'll be good. Let's do Genji. Same thing with Genji, building up basic forms and then just kind of trying to place in where his details are, and he is symmetrical, so you can run a center line and then you can just start kind of building back and forth what his lines are and what his details are. Now you'll get a shorthand at it, like eventually you'll know like, oh, okay, this line goes here, but then you don't have to draw every single line that you see. It's just when you're first starting out in drawing, be as observant as you can and then pull back. You want to get everything in, and then you can start taking out details that you're like, oh, okay, I don't really need to have this particular little nuance here, but I do need to have these specific things, because the overall shape is going to be a lot more important than like the silhouette, than every nuancing detail. So if you have the silhouette correct, sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied here, you will be able to communicate who you're drawing, even if the details aren't 100% correct. Don't beat yourself up if things are looking a little bit off. Like, just keep observing, because eventually you've got to do a few different passes. Like, as you can see here, I've done a couple of drawings of them and I screwed up the video, so I had to delete it, but those drawings gave me another basis to jump off, so I'm able to draw or remember that, okay, I have to draw his visor a little bit differently so that I can get in his kind of like his sight guard, essentially, like the green lights that aren't really green because I'm drawing in pencil. But like, also I have like just, oh, okay, this shape does this and this shape does that, and it's just slowly building up all these shapes and realizing that, hey, maybe I don't need this line to be so strong, and pulling back on that line. As long as, again, the silhouette is correct, you shouldn't have too much of an issue communicating which character you're drawing, even if all the little minor details are not right. I'm being repetitive, but that's all I can do right now. So yeah. And it's okay if something's a little off. It doesn't have to be 100%. You're not doing Like, especially if you're drawing stuff for fun, you don't worry about it. Just have fun with it. Draw the character. Try and draw the character emoting. The character Link 17 I love because of his little ears that but yeah, just start basic forms and then break down all of the details into basic shapes. Make sure your silhouette is correct, and then just start having fun with it. I know I'm doing really boring poses, but I really don't know how to draw robots very well. Maybe a different video, I'll try drawing them in like different poses and stuff like that. Make it a little bit more interesting, but hopefully this gives you a jumping point that you can go off of and draw some crazy cool robotic-y characters. Anyways, I'm gonna leave you guys with that. Hopefully it helped. If it didn't, just let me know. Again, I don't draw this stuff very often, so I'm kind of learning as I go as well. The only thing I know is that just basic shapes are your best friend. Anyways, so Genji and Zenyatta, I could do some details on them, color them, and that's the other thing, is that you have to remember that a lot of the detailing-y things on here is going to be from shading and coloring as well. As long as you have the basic forms down, you can play with them and make them all pretty and beautiful when you go into your finishing. Finishing for me takes a really long time, so I probably won't show you that, but anyways, yeah, if you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you, bye.